On the dot.
I finally got my watch here going. So, well, it being the time, let me call this club, the oldest Lions Club in the world, to order. And thank you all for coming. I'm Rudy Munguia, the club president this year, and it's we'll have our pledge in just a moment. Chuck Mandelbaum is our host, our Zoom host today. So, Chuck, if you will share with us some things about Zoom.
No, the only thing we ask is when somebody else is speaking, that everybody silence themselves. It works better if only one person is speaking at a time. That's about the only thing. Just asking for common courtesy. That's it. Thanks, Rudy.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much. And our pledge leader today is Sid Popinski, Lions Sid. So if, as you're able, would you please stand, and Sid will lead us in the pledge. So here we go. Sid, I'm going to turn it back to you.
I'm muted. I'm no longer muted. All right, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're going to do Texas. Can you get the Texas pledge up?
I'm trying to. I don't know what happened to my thing.
If not, I'll do it.
No, I'll get it. I had it up. It should go, but it's not going. Yeah, you get it up because mine's not working.
I went all the way back to September the 4th and
All right, I'm not going to get it up. I'll just read it.
Wait a minute, here it comes.
You
Wait a
got
minute. Should come up right. Here she is.
Okay, everybody, there we are. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Hee-haw.
Yeah.
You may now sit down, my friends.
Thank you so much, Sid. Do appreciate it. And Zoom continues to throw little curves at us, so we're hanging in. So thank you so much. All right. Well, let's see if we let me again say welcome to everyone. It's always a pleasure to get together as Lions, even though it may be in a way of technology and Zoom, but we're thankful for that. So thank you all for joining us today. Do we have any guests? Do we have any guests today? I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, I'm sorry, John. John, would you introduce your guest, please?
Yes, I will. I will introduce my guest ultimately when it comes time for his speaker. My guest today is Austin Buchan, who will be delivering our program today.
That's yeah, that's good, and we'll have more on that as we get into the program. So thank you very much. Any other guests? Okay, not seeing any. We're going to move on and move on to announcements. Just want to call your attention to some emails that you may have received. One is from, I believe it's Ollie. OLLI, I believe that's OLI. It's a program through the University of Texas, and they actually did a program with us this past summer, and it was very enjoyable. But they offer, OLI stands for Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and they offer through technology and again through Zoom lectures and such and they are offering that free to our Lions Club. So that is on your email. I just call it to your attention. There are 4 options that they, 4 different lectures that they are offering. One is tomorrow on the Texas Rangers, not the ball team, but the original Texas law enforcement Rangers. And others are the following weeks. So again, I'm just reminding everybody that you should have received that by way of your email. Let me move on to another announcement. Last Monday night, we had a special promotion for our club and for our rose sale, and that was through the NFL alumni partnership that our club has. They were doing the Monday night watch program, really the football game, the Monday night football game. And while the football game is going on, they are having their guest speaker and making announcements and talking about sports in general. In any case, they were promoting our Lions Club with a logo and talking about the sporting clay event that we've enjoyed doing together, and also about our rose sale. So that was last Monday night, and we enjoyed that. We appreciate their thinking of us and promoting us the way they did. And then one final announcement today, that is about rose delivery date, packaging next week on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we will not meet as a Lions Club. We will be delivering roses, but we'll have more on all of that here in just a moment. So those are the announcements. And then we're moving on to birthdays. Let's see. Oh, we have no birthdays this week. Well, it happens. So we have no birthdays to celebrate, but we do have the next part on the agenda is very special. We enjoy doing our member profile, and always enjoy listening to and learning more about members that work with us, that join with us, do volunteer work with us through the Lions Club. And today we have the pleasure of having Lion Alan Ford tell us a little bit about his being a Lion and some other things. So welcome, Alan, and I'm gonna ask that you unmute and you share with us what you will, please.
Well, thank you, Lion President. I've really enjoyed getting to know other Lions through these profiles, and maybe mine will kind of help explain where I come from on some things. I found an outline of some questions to answer to start with, I guess, to lay this out. So I'll follow that first. Where are you from? I was born in Austin in the old Seton Hospital, which is now a couple of blocks of condos up around 26th and Rio Grande. And I saw in yesterday's paper where within a block or two of there will soon be a 30-story residential tower going up. I grew up in South Austin on the road formerly known as Manchac Road because it went to Manchac. And until we were annexed by the city when I was about 6 years old, we had a cow and a horse. I graduated from William B. Travis High School, and for the next 10 years, I was in and out of the University of Texas before ultimately emerging with some kind of a degree. What was your career path? Well, it looks like sort of a random path of least resistance, but they were all things that shaped my worldview. Because while I was going to school, I spent about 10 months working for the City of Austin Planning Department, surveying land use and building conditions around the city. I worked about 6 months as a special delivery messenger for the Postal Service, and being one of the junior guys, I got to deliver a lot in East Austin and see a lot of the town. After that period of time, I transferred to the Internal Revenue Service and worked for a while, of 3 years at the service center out there in South Austin. Then the Treasury Department opened a dispersing center in Austin, and I went to work there and worked my way up from a programmer to a data processing manager. Finished my BBA degree and moved to Washington, D.C., where I spent 4.5 years working on the development of the first electronic funds transfer system for direct deposit. Came back to Austin and worked at the Dispersing Center for a few years as the director of staff assistant. And I got my MBA at night at St. Edward's University in 1982. And I like to tell people that that MBA gave me the skills and the confidence to abandon a really nice, secure government job and jump into the real estate boom in Austin that was going on at that point in time. And it was exciting for a while. The first commission check I got was $25,000. That was a pretty nice chunk of change in 1983. And during that period of time, I had a chance to reunite with the Longhorn Alumni Band. Got to be very active in that. But by late 1986, that bubble had burst. And I still have the certificates from J.B. Goodwin Commercial showing that I was Commercial Sales Agent of the Month. For January and February of 1987, I think I made less than $1,000 each month in gross commissions during that period of time. Anyway, a steady paycheck looked good, so I went back to work for Treasury at the Internal Revenue Service as a revenue agent, earned my CPA, got into international examination, and the last 3 years was involved in as a technical advisor, a national technical advisor for what we called offshore compliance, which seemed kind of oxymoronic in those days, but now it's they've gotten to be a little more muscular in that area. Anyway, in 2003, after 33 years with Treasury, I retired. After a couple of years, I started doing some part-time tax consulting and representation for people with tax controversies. And the next question is, how and when did you begin to participate in Lions? Well, in 1984, while I was in the commercial real estate business, Tommy Cowan asked me to join the Lions Club. I was honored to be elected president of the club 1990 and 91, the 75th anniversary year. What service and fundraising have you done? Well, just about everything we've done. I don't think I recall any project I worked on that wasn't ultimately fun, even though some of it was hard work. But ones that stick out particularly were the rose sales and deliveries, the Texas Lions Camp work days, and working on the sporting clay shoots. But also I have to fill out my profile by mentioning my family because I see a lot of the world through their eyes. My wife, Kathy, we've been married 36 years. She was an HR manager at the IRS, and she does a lot of local volunteering here. Her son, Lyle, has an IT business in Lewistown, Montana. It's always handy to have an information technology specialist in the family. Our daughter, Jill, in Austin, is the mother of our 2 grandchildren, Kate, who's a senior at Austin High School, and Jack, who's a junior at Drexel University. I'm sorry, a sophomore at Drexel University in Philadelphia. And my daughter, Becky, who's currently living in Germany, has been almost 20 years in the intelligence community with the Department of Defense, including 9 years abroad in Europe, Africa, and including 6 months in Afghanistan. And I'll just close with one quick story about what I've learned through Becky and her exposure. In 2004, she was traveling with Special Forces people to do training for the government forces in the country of Mali, regularly one of the poorest countries in the world. And as they were driving into the capital city of Bamako from the airport, she said everything there was brown. The ground was brown, the houses were brown, the air was brown. And then she saw this brightly colored sign on a telephone pole that said Lions Club meets here. And that was a story that I like to tell people to show that we truly are an international organization. And I enjoy all of it, from helping people around the block to around the world. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alan. That's always interesting, informative, and we appreciate your sharing that. Okay, then we need to catch up a little bit on our our rose sales. And so let me, is Robert or Glenda gonna help us with that? Let's see, we have a visual coming up, and this is our new sales chart. And there have been some changes, as you will note. We have Michael Cowan. Yay, we need to give Michael a big applause for his wonderful sales, coming in and selling over 100 dozen roses. So that is spectacular, Michael. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And the others that have sold roses, you can see who they are there with, you know, from 1 dozen all the way to Michael's 107 dozen. So to all of you, it's very, very sincere thank you for all the wonderful work that you've done. And if you have sold roses but have not turned in your check or have not turned in your information, I hope you know that all that goes to our secretary, Leonor. And Leonor, do you want to add anything to that about collecting and receiving the checks?
I'm good either way, however you want to do it. All I need from you is your information as soon as possible. So either send me everything in an email, all your rose orders if you still have them with you. I don't particularly care about the checks at this point. Yes, you can then send them over to Jim directly or to our PO box as you prefer, or I can take payments over credit card if you wish as well. But I need that information as soon as possible. As you know, deadline was extended until Friday. But I need to make the routes, and that takes me a long time. So the sooner I have all the information, the faster I can have the routes ready, and I can start sending those routes out to you guys so that you can plan your day for Thursday as well. So that's all I need from you. So get me your information on your rose orders as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And all right. Any questions about any of this? I hope if you did sell, if you did sell roses, your name is shown here. We don't want to leave anyone out. So I trust that we are updated on all of that. What I'm planning on doing, and I suggest just as a suggestion, that the checks that I have received on the roses I have sold, I'm planning on helping with the packaging and the delivery next week. Leonor will be there at the warehouse where we're going to do the roses. So I'm just planning on bringing the checks and giving them to her there rather than mailing them or finding another way of getting them to her. So that's just a suggestion. You may have other ways to do that. All right, so I'd like to move on to another visual, and this one sharing information about packaging for next week, next Wednesday. October the 28th will be our day to do our packaging, and if we can have that, yeah, here we are. With who's going to be helping us with the packing and who's going to be helping us with the delivery. So if you have volunteered, I hope you're seeing your name there. There's still time to come out and help. And so let me ask that if we can put up, do we have the visual on the what and where for that? If not, I can share that information. Okay, let me, it is the rose packaging. Let's see if what's coming up here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so for next Wednesday, the 28th, what is happening? We're doing packing. We're putting the roses into packages and ready for delivery the next day. Where is this going to take place? Well, you can see there, it's at the Bill Doran Wholesale Florist Warehouse. There's the address, information about where that is. When is it going to take place? Well, it's going to take place on Wednesday from 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 or until we finish with that. Who's involved? Well, so far 13 of the Lions and Lions Friends are helping us do the packaging. And then how is that all going to happen? And there's just a note. If you have pruning shears, please bring them. If you have garden gloves, please bring them. And label your pruning shears, if you will, and everyone will be wearing masks for the situation that we're living in right now. So that's on Wednesday. Then moving on to delivering the roses. The rose pickup is going to be there at the Bill Doran Florist Warehouse and we start at 7 in the morning. Then we'll do that throughout the day. And we have 18 Lions and Friends that have volunteered for that to this point. And then when we pick up the roses, we will also pick up maps and addresses of where to deliver the roses, and see how many see how many dozens we are going to be delivering that day. So let me see if there's anything else here.
Can I interrupt you a little bit, Rudy?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm gonna need, I know I have 18 people, but that big order that we have from Michael Cowan, it's gonna be delivered to Lake Travis ISD. So if there's one person, it's gonna be a bulk delivery of 100 dozen roses. So I would need somebody with a truck, probably would be the best way, so we can fit all of those roses. Yes, Tommy, go ahead. I can't hear you, sorry.
All right, I have a truck and I know where they're going, so.
You can do that?
I'll take care of Michael's.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you. So that one's out of the game. Perfect. That is perfect. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Okay, thank you for that additional information. So that will help us with considerable number of roses, and we'll still have others to deliver in different parts of town. So again, right now we have 18 folks who have volunteered for that, and so we encourage our new members to see if you can team up together and maybe get a little bit better feel of what this feels like and what it's about. So
Rudy,
yeah.
This is Mark.
Yeah.
Leonora or Robert or Glenda, I believe that Doran's warehouse, I believe they're only open until 1 o'clock, so it can't just be any time. So isn't that correct? I think they close, so get there in the morning would be best.
Yes, we have to be there from 7 onwards, and we have to pick everything up before 12 for sure. Normally, I mean, the last couple of years, we've been fine. Everybody picks everything up and we're done about 11. I would only have 2 routes still pending about that time. And then somebody would come in for a second route. But I think with this number of volunteers, if they all take a route, we should be fine, but you need to be there early. I don't say 7 o'clock. Some of the people are there at 7 because they have to go to Round Rock and Cedar Park and Leander. Whatever works for you, but don't be there after 11 because it causes it's chaos. So be there until 11. That would be the perfect, because we have to deliver before in the morning still.
All right. Okay. Well, I hope that those of you that are involved with all of this have the information you need, because and if you don't, there was a telephone number for Robert Watson that was where you can get additional information, or you can call me as well. Okay, we're going to move on then. Thank you so much for all of you that have worked and made this rose sale such a success. And we'll get the final numbers as
I think Glenda wanted to say something, Rudy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Robert wants to talk.
Yes, with regards to the orders that we have for the delivery, very important that we be there early in the morning. You can be delivering through the afternoon, but you have to have your orders picked up before 11 o'clock, before 12 for sure, because that facility isn't like it used to be. It closes at 1 o'clock and we got to be out of there. So that's very, very important. And if you have any questions, give me a call. And I'll go over some other details with regards to deliveries, because there are some little hitches that happen. And if that happens to you when you're in the field, you don't really know what to do. So, but we'll talk about it another time. We got other things to talk about now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Any questions? Any questions? I trust that, again, that you have the information that you need or know how to get additional information. All right, well, we are heading for the last auction, the last rose auction that we will enjoy. And so thank you for our past auctions. We have to say a special thank you to our auctioneer, J.P. Kirksey. And there's a dozen roses that Robert's holding up that we will auction off. So JP, let me ask that you take it from here, please.
Well, thank you, Line President Rudy. I see behind you, you still have that beautiful set of roses that we sold you about 3 weeks ago. And Sid, you have a nice dozen behind you. So we have sold now 307 dozen, mostly thanks to the efforts of Michael Cowan. So we all owe him a big thanks for putting us at that high level. So we have a chance today to sell one more dozen. And I will start that bidding at our traditional $5. Who will give me 5? Just raise your hand, nod your head, do something. There's John Knifler, $5, $10. He said, keep flashing them. 15, Greg Thompson. Anybody give me 20? Anybody get 20? I'm looking for 20. 20, Rudy. Rudy got 20. 25 to Glenda or Robert.
Robert.
Robert. All right, 25, Robert. Who give me 30? Give me 30. I need 30. I need 30. Got 25. Give me 30. Raise a hand. Greg Do, $30. Give me 35. Anybody 35? 35. 35. Jim, you're not eligible to buy.
I had my hand up this time.
Okay. Leonore, 35. Greg, 40. Greg, 40. Anybody 40? Got 35, Leonore. 40. Linda Locke, 40.
You got Tommy.
45, Greg Do, 45. I need 50. Anybody 50?
You got Tommy's
Anybody
hand
50?
up.
I got Greg in for 45.
You got Tommy's hand up.
I can't see him. Where is he?
He's
There he
right
is.
there.
All right. Tommy,
He
$50.
just flashed about
Greg,
100.
55. Greg, 55. Anybody 55? We got Tommy for 50. Tommy for 50. Anybody 55? It's just money and you can't take it with you. $50, got 55. Looking for 55. Going to sell it. Sold that dozen roses to Tommy Cowan. I'm not sure where he's going to put them, but congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, JP, Auctioneer Lion JP, and thank you again for these past weeks of excitement and the auctions you have led us through. Tommy, yes.
It occurs to me in that count of 307, do you put in the counts of John and Tommy and Jim that have been buying them each week? Is that part of that count? I'm just curious.
Leonard is saying no.
It's not part of that count. The rose auctions are not part of that count. Those
Well,
are just.
They should be. They go to the rose.
I can put you there if you want, but I don't usually put, because that will mess up my numbers. If I then forget to take it away, it will mess up my numbers for the order at the end. So that's.
Well, I'm just trying to give an overall of what the program is going to sell overall.
Well, we've sold about 5 dozen online. I mean, here in auctions. So in total, it's another 5 here in auctions.
Oh, the revenue from the roses in the auction?
No, he's asking how many dozen we've sold in the auctions. It's been, I think, 5 so far.
No. What, 11?
Well,
11?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a lot more than 5, and it's also $50, not 25 or 30. So it's,
yeah.
But that money does go into the rose account, of course. I just don't count it as a rose order because it's not a rose order. It's been already purchased and delivered. So that's the reason why it doesn't show up on there. But the money, of course, counts in towards the fundraiser as an all.
I think there've been at least 10 or 12 orders this way.
Yeah, there's been 11 actually, and it'll generate about $500.
Seems like there's been 20 or 30 from my auctioning.
All right. Well, thank you very much for, I hope that clarifies a little bit better where we are and how which direction all this auction money goes and who gets, how it is shown credited. But it is time for us to move into our program. And to do that, I'm going to ask John Niefler to introduce our program and our speaker. So Lion John, please.
I'm happy to do so. Thank you. Our guest speaker today is Austin Buchan. He is Chief Executive Officer of College Forward, a successful post-secondary education program for young people. He is located here in Austin. He joined the organization's staff in 2010 and became CEO in 2017. Austin is a Spanish speaker, and prior to joining College Forward, Austin worked in rural Nicaragua, developing national education programs there. He also has managed national political campaigns in both Boulder, Colorado, and Boston, Massachusetts. Austin is a graduate of Trinity University in San Antonio and is a 2016 graduate of the University of Pennsylvania School of Social Policy and Practice with a focus on social impact strategy and in its social entrepreneurship program. Timely for today's approaching election, Austin's background included the management of the logistical support for large-scale voter registration programs in 11 different states. We welcome today Austin Buchan. Yes.
I wish I could hear all the claps. I'm going to do it over here so I can hear it. Hey, everybody. John, thank you so much for that warm introduction. It is a pleasure to be here. I feel like I'm stepping into a family reunion of sorts, having joined a little bit early in y'all's meeting, hearing y'all's conversations. This has been wonderful. And again, just an honor to be here. And John, thank you so much for the invitation. One housekeeping thing, y'all, before I get going. John, I know we're maybe a little bit behind on the agenda. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Can you just do a quick confirmation on our ideal timing for this presentation? And I want to leave as much time for Q&A and any other business matters before everyone has to get off the call.
Yeah, maybe I can address that. Thank you for asking. We are starting a little bit late on our program, but we'd like to go till about 1:25 and allow maybe time for some questions and then some announcements, some final announcements. So if that works for you, that's what we can work with.
That sounds fantastic. All right, well, I'll start there. And I'm going to share my screen here, if that's okay with you. I'm not sure if that's a possibility. I have some fun visuals just to help illustrate some of the great work that this organization does. And I can't really take credit for any of it. We have an amazing team of about 120 full-time staff who have been working on this mission. Since 2003, we've been in Austin, Texas, born and raised as a nonprofit organization. And not quite born and raised myself personally. I'm actually from Corpus Christi, Texas. I'll introduce myself briefly here. Born and raised on the Texas Gulf Coast. As you heard, I went to Trinity University. I've just been making my way up I-35, I-37, little by little. And part of my personal story really begins, and I was going to show this because it's really the core of my passion for this work that I get to do every day and get to call my job and career. But this is my group of 8 students that John referenced down in Nicaragua, where I had the great pleasure of studying abroad when I was in college at Trinity University, but also got to go back about 2 years later to return to work. And it was here that I'll tell you, I wasn't really thinking that my career would be in education around college success or college access until this work down on a little island in rural Nicaragua. This was the entire high school senior class of the school that I was working with. And not only was this group the first in their families to graduate high school, they were certainly the first ever to be accepted into basically a 4-year equivalent, kind of the UT Austin equivalent down in Nicaragua, where they went off to become the first. I'm happy to say now, a decade plus later, each of them has graduated with their bachelor's degree. And I've been able to maintain relationships with literally everybody here on this photo. And they're just some of the most hardworking, inspiring, funny human beings you'll ever meet, and pioneers in their own right of becoming the first in their families. I interviewed in a funny way, now that we're all stuck in Zoom meetings, I had my first ever interview with College Forward 11 years ago, almost to the day, on a Skype phone call. So I did a Skype video interview, and Back in those days, College Forward was only working with about 380 students. And that felt like a huge jump from my 8 students that you're looking at here. But it's also funny to think about, given that we have since grown to impact the lives of over 16,000 students who are first in their families and from low income backgrounds, helping them get into and all the way through college. I am proud to say that that number does make College Forward, though we are a humble org based in Austin, Texas. We are one of the largest, if not the largest, provider of such supports for students in the country. We are proud of that fact, but Austin is always our home and it's where our biggest footprint is. And so I think what I wanted to maybe frame, just to give y'all maybe some different perspectives in our wonderful city that is wonderful in so many ways, and also the most economically segregated city, one of the most economically segregated cities in the entire United States. And we often talk about this as kind of the tale of two Austins. We have this vibrant, tech-driven, youthful, energetic, campus-oriented, socially minded community that in and of itself is also struggling with a lot of equity issues. And the mission of our organization is to help undo and kind of break the cycle of that generational poverty through education. Specifically, though, our mission statement, as you'll see on our website, is that College Forward coaches motivated, underserved students to achieve the benefits of higher education and a college degree. And our vision as an organization, which we finally wrote down because we've got some pretty big aspiring goals, is not just to work on the students that we are fortunate enough to serve day in, day out, but to help our entire industry of education providers do their jobs as effectively, efficiently, and we hope with as much fun as humanly possible. So our vision is to lead that charge by building and sharing the best version of our work and then get that out into as many players' hands as we possibly can by 2023. So I am proud to say this is a fun fact about College Forward that's really unique about the way we have things designed. We're not your average nonprofit. We have about 120 staff who are working exclusively on this mission and vision. We're about a $5 million budget these days, which is about 10 times what it was when I first started here, serving about 10 times as many students each year. But interestingly, we also have a software business underneath the nonprofit that helps us fulfill this vision and actually extends our work to an additional 400,000 students all around the country. So for me personally, just speaking from my heart, it's this perfect world of being able to apply the best of the business world into the nonprofit kind of social space on the mission that we care about most. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of kind of the impact we're having to date and where we're headed as an organization. But I want to back up just a little bit and talk about why we exist in the first place. And that might seem like a really elementary question, but it's actually a pretty important existential one that we think about quite a bit. And the reality is, we did our homework and we found that the power of a college degree, despite a lot of the conversation you hear now, which is very valid, right, about how expensive college is these days, the reality is that in spite of all that, a college degree, in our estimation, is the closest thing to a silver bullet in helping students from lower income backgrounds break that cycle of generational poverty and create an enduring generational impact on themselves and their families. And that's not just us positing that. We did our homework. And, it's interesting. This is a snapshot of right when I was graduating from college in the middle of our last recession in 2008. You've often maybe heard that a college degree will help yield about $1 million more in earnings over the course of an individual's lifetime. And that number still is true. But what I think is really interesting and relevant today as we're entering into another recession of sorts, potentially even a depression, I know we're still wrapping our heads around all this economic reality. The reality is that as you're working your way towards more advanced degrees, your job security obviously increases with each passing step. And so we have just found of all the things we could be working on, that still, even with the increased costs of tuition and some of the pressures that puts on our students and families, the power of degree is unchanged. And this is what keeps us laser-like focused on our work. I like to include this snapshot right here of one of the first students I ever met when I first moved to Austin, Texas. This is a gentleman named Nick Ryo. And when we took this photo back in 2009, he was the only person in the entire photo in his extended family with any sort of college degree. Nick graduated from Hayes Academy just south of Austin back in 2005 and has since become a senior VP at Accenture. making a lot of money for himself and his family. And he's now, fun fact, a recurring donor back to College Forward, paying it forward to help other students. The reality though, and this is something I want to maybe, I hope lodge in your brains a little bit as you take away, there's so many social issues that are plaguing our communities every day in different forms. And today I really want to focus in on higher education and how that shows up for our students back in Central Texas. Because I think it's some pretty stark information. There's a ton of data, and I promise I'm not going to inundate you with charts and graphs, but I did want to paint this, I think, rather vivid image. As you can hopefully see in this is a snapshot of college degree attainment as of 1970. So we go back exactly 50 years ago, and we can see that back then, 44% of high income students had some sort of college degree by the time they reached adulthood, compared to only 6% of their low income peers. And if you just bear with me and kind of close your eyes and imagine over the past 50 years, the trillions of dollars we have invested, that might be a slight exaggeration, in our public and private education system, K-12 all the way through college. Think of all the reforms, all the policies, all the nonprofits, all of the school districts and new institutions popping up. And you think about what we've produced as a result of that. And we fast forward to today, and this is what it looks like now. So now, closer to 90% of all high income students have a college degree, compared to only 9% of their low income peers. So there's a lot that you could take away from this image in and of itself. One key takeaway is the fact that, among other things, the gap between high and low income degree attainment has more than doubled, despite all of our core efforts to fix this. And so we've seen the ramifications of this. I think we care about this on the individual level, but of course this shows up in our economics, how it affects our communities, how it affects our economy, that this perpetual state of inequality in higher education has to get fixed. And it's squarely what College Forward is focused on. I'll give one more, interesting and maybe more relevant for folks who have themselves maybe running their own businesses here on this call, who can resonate with this as well. But you might look at that and say, okay, well, not everyone needs a college degree though, right? It's not that big of a deal. Certainly we'd like it to be better, but hey, there's plenty of good jobs out there, right, that don't require any sort of degree beyond high school. Well, the reality is that closer to 65%, they've actually updated this number, closer to 65% of all jobs in the state of Texas require some sort of post-secondary degree. And the vast majority of those are 4-year degrees and higher, so bachelor's degrees and higher. So we smash these two numbers up together, and we think that 60%, that all of our K-12 students in Central Texas are considered low income, and we have a pretty serious situation on our hands. So enough of the doom and gloom. I'm going to tell you about what we're doing to fix all this. So College Forward deploys what we call a near peer coaching model, where we bring in a team of about 100 young folks every year who are recent college grads themselves to go deploy our mission. And to oversimplify our work somewhat, our team is really focused on building meaningful relationships with their students to give them that trusting social support and emotional support they need. We like to say we're our students' biggest cheerleaders as they're going through these various steps to get into college. And the other half of what we do is try to demystify the process. Y'all might remember this yourselves. You might have kids or grandkids going through this process as we speak in their senior year of high school. We have so many steps that we make students jump through, especially those who need financial assistance to make sure they get on that path to and through college. And so being able to march a student through who really is just understanding their own finances for the first time in their lives and making critical lifelong decisions as 18-year-olds, if not younger, having that caring adult who's just been through the process themselves can really make a difference. So typically we have worked with about 13 high schools here in Central Texas. And if you think about the city kind of in a reverse letter C, extending all the way up to Round Rock, extending as far east as Elgin, and then reaching as far south as Hayes, we have delivered and deployed after school classes since 2003. And we have grown to impact over 10,000 students who come from these varying backgrounds of highly motivated, but students who come from maybe under-resourced communities to help them navigate this myriad and pretty complex process and make sure they're set up for success. But the thing that really separates us is that there are tons of nonprofits who help students get into college, not a ton of organizations who stay with students all the way through their degree completion. And that's exactly what we do, and honestly, where we spend the bulk of our work these days. So of the 8,000 or so students that we're working with in Austin this academic year, about 6,500 of those are actually in college right now. So we still have a pretty good high school presence, but the vast majority of our work and our effort is making sure that if we help the student get into college, we're making sure that they're staying and completing their degree. So this is really the core that really inspires all of our work. And you can see some of the things that we do here on a one-on-one level with each of our students day in, day out. I am really proud to say that some of our outcomes around this, again, to offer some light and hope into the conversation, is that when we do this work well in high schools, 90% of all college forward students will enroll in college directly out of high school. 90%. That exceeds high income student enrollment in the region. So we think about this just with some support, some added coaching, we can level the playing field, and if not exceed the playing field in some cases, for our most underserved and under-resourced students. The other and probably most important piece is that about 65%, this is an older slide, about 65% of our students are completing their college degree, which is about twice the rate of students who are not in our program. So again, seeing this mission all the way through fruition, making sure that we're not just stopping at the gates of when they enroll in college, but extending that support all the way through the finish line is really what inspires and helps inform all of the work that we do. I should also know, I know many of y'all are so involved in different ways. We are philanthropically supported across the organization, across the community. And I have to give kudos to all of these wonderful folks who are really responsible for all those great outcomes I was sharing before. But folks like the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, the Texas Pioneer Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, who you probably hear on NPR every morning. There's a ton of wonderful funders, both here in our backyard, but also nationally, who have helped bring all of this work to life. And so every time I try to tell our story, I have to include all of these wonderful folks who are giving so meaningfully to this mission. So I have so many more things that I could talk about, and I want to be really respectful of our time together. And I just want to end maybe with a little bit more of a strategic and kind of forward-looking statement, which is that College Forward, being a leader in this space, not just in our own backyard, but nationally, is really trying to push the needle to figure out how we can scale these impacts. While we're very proud of the fact that we're one of the largest service providers in town, we realize that we're only serving about 5% of the student need. Just before this conversation, I was on the phone with our 5 area school district superintendents who are interested in expanding all of our work. I saw a question come in about COVID that I can address more directly, but in an interesting way, you know, we tried to find some silver lining in this COVID crisis last academic year. And one of those silver linings was a partnership that we fostered with Austin Independent School District and Pflugerville ISD that enabled us to serve another 2,000 students this past summer. In a matter of weeks, we were able to pair high school seniors who had told their schools that they were worried about their transition and their plans to college, given all the COVID realities. We were able to pair those 2,000 students with a team of 18 College Forward professionals who helped them navigate their summer transition months, which, as we know, is one of the most volatile times in a student's transition. So those are the sorts of opportunities and kind of levels of scale that we're hoping to bring to the table for our community, and invite any of y'all who are maybe passionate about education to join that with us. You can always follow up with me in terms of how we can stay in touch after this call. But I'm going to try to end it there so we have a good around 10 minutes or so here for some remaining questions or ideas that this may have inspired. And I see a couple coming in, but Lion President, Mr. Rudy, if you want to help me facilitate this, I'd be happy to jump in.
Yes, thank you so much. I believe one question that came in on the chat was about the pandemic and how are your students and how are you and the students working through this?
It's been a doozy. You know, I'll start with College Forward first. I talked about our 100-person team. We had to, in March, close our physical office, close all of our on-campus programming, and transition to a fully remote work environment. So our physical office, which is about a 10,000 square foot building that we had just moved into earlier that year, we had to vacate. Our team did an amazing job weathering that transition. Most importantly, though, we transitioned all of our student programming to a purely remote environment as well. And interestingly, this is actually a good news thread. We saw an increase in the number of students participating in our program as a result of that transition. I think we just made ourselves more accessible to students because we were all remote, but we saw about a 20% increase in student engagement as a result of that. So needless to say, we are also deeply concerned about the long-term effects that COVID's going to have on our students. And I would say even more importantly, the students who aren't in our program. You know, you think about how complicated this process is to navigate with someone like us. Imagine doing it without any sort of support and with a pandemic going on at the same time that's disproportionately hurting students from low-income backgrounds. So I'm an optimist at heart, but I am going to say that this is going to be a very challenging year in the world of education, especially for those students who are hoping to be their first in their families to go to college this fall semester.
All right, thank you. Another question from Lion Sid. How are your students handling virtual learning and staying safe? That may be related to the first one, but would you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, you know, that it's an interesting one, right? We've seen some of the data around this where the COVID crisis is disproportionately hurting our minority student populations and low income student populations. They're trying to stay safe just like any other student who's currently, you know, trying to finish their high school career or college career, trying to find good advice from their institutions that has been highly inconsistent. I will tell you, we have students attending over 120 colleges around the country. And so from our end and from there, and it's been really hard to manage the varying messages that they've been receiving that are often moving targets. The good news is that if you remember the CARES Act, feels like a lifetime ago, that was passed by the federal government, a significant amount of that funding was earmarked for college students who were really being, who were experiencing the consequences of all this. So institutions have actually been giving increased aid in an emergency fashion to more and more students this past year that hopefully will help mitigate what we hope to see, you know, a smaller rate of drop-offs from one year to the next.
All right, thank you. Roberto, I believe you have your hand up.
Yes. Are you coordinating or you've been working with Capital Idea? Are you familiar with Capital Idea?
Very much so, yeah, wonderful organization.
Because they, of course, most of they're locally, so they are able to help them through their school. They help them with transportation and childcare and things like that, which sometimes is important. And I realized that you're seeing kids all over the United States, and it's more difficult. But anyway, working with them, some of your students may be going through Capital Idea. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Capital Idea, for those who aren't familiar, is another very similar looking organization as College Forward here in Austin, a fantastic program that's been around, God, the better part of 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they really have a keen focus on returning adult learners who are ideally getting into really high demand, high wage jobs that typically only require a 2-year degree. So a lot of their students are going through nursing programs that are really competitive. But as you were referencing, they also provide a lot of wraparound support to make sure that they have childcare, to make sure they have their transportation covered. And so to your question, we actually have, because we have so many students in our program, we love them for sure, but if we feel like they could be better served by Capital Idea, we have great referral programs. And the opposite's true as well. We have a few Capital Idea students who maybe wanted to go pursue their bachelor's degree after completing at Austin Community College that we've had the pleasure of supporting and enrolling into our model. So it's a great ecosystem. That's one of my favorite things about this work in Austin is that, you know, there are about 8,000 nonprofits in this town, which is kind of hard to fathom. But
I'm going to take credit that I was one of the original board members here.
Oh, no way. That's fantastic. I'm going to reach out to Steve.
Thank you, because I'm very interested in helping those kids go to college.
It's a wonderful program, and thank you for getting that off the ground.
Thank you.
But it's a vibrant and collaborative nonprofit community that we have here. Not a lot of competition in any way. We always try to sync up where we can to make sure we're not stepping on toes and overlapping services.
Maybe one more question if anyone else has a question. I believe we may have covered that pretty well. So to our speaker, thank you so much for that very informative program.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Take care, everyone.
And thank you to Lion John for inviting our guest today. Making
Rudy,
wonderful.
Rudy, may I make just a comment?
Yes.
To Austin, a very enlightening presentation of something that most of us, I say for myself, didn't really know existed. So I'm very impressed with what has been delivered here, and very impressed with the work that's going on. Thank you very much, Austin.
I appreciate that. Thank you as well.
Okay, and so we just need to have a word about next week's program. And I don't know if I see Laura and I believe Norman Tyring has the well, I say next week's. Let me back up. We're not meeting next week. So this is for the 2 weeks from now program on November the 5th. And is Norman close to? Okay. Mac, can you help us with the program for November the 5th, please?
Yeah, that's our annual tribute to veterans, because it's near Veterans Day. So Norman has Glenn Towery, and I don't know anything about him yet. I haven't seen his information, but he's got a really important topic about suicide prevention. So that's to honor our veterans.
Appreciate that. While you were speaking, we have Norman showing up on the screen.
I'm sorry. I missed out on that important part, but the two speakers are really interesting, and particularly the one on veterans. I saw him perform at Mueller Lake for the Austin school system, and he's really very good at providing assistance for veterans who have problems and need 24-hour assistance and calling in, so they don't make the wrong decision in their lives. So he's particularly interesting, and I'm just getting the paperwork together for him.
All right. Thank you, Norman, for that preview of our November the 5th program. Okay, well, we're getting ready to close it. And just a reminder that we do not meet next week. Thank you to all those that are helping us with packaging and delivery next Wednesday and Thursday. And I do want to announce, we had a board meeting scheduled last week that we had to reschedule for today. So at right after our regular meeting, as soon as we adjourn, in a few minutes, we'll be having our board meeting, and all of you are welcome to join us at that time. If there are no other announcements, all right. Thank you so much for joining us, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.